The tribe has spoken. No, not Survivor, not Jeff from Survivor, the Afrikaner refugees. Because after a week where we have all been waiting, not just as a country, but as the world, to find out direct from the mouths of some of these South Africans who've now moved to the United States of America through refugee status fast tracking on behalf of or by the Trump administration, we've all been waiting to hear for them to speak for themselves about this decision that they've made, their motives and their understanding of why they left and what they expect from their lives now that they are in the United States. And honestly, the comparison with Survivor makes perfect sense because apparently they went there to survive. You know that refugees need to flee famine or war to survive. So welcome to Survivor America, Afrikaner edition. 2 of the alleged refugees have now spoken to international media, one to the New York Times, another to BBC. But we now have long-form interviews and quotes from 2 people, Errol Langton and Charles Kleinhaus. And some of the things that they said will not surprise you, but some of them will really surprise you and show you how much more absurd the situation is. For example, just right off the bat, one of them is a raging bigot who on his social media, which he has confirmed is his, he has exhibited at the very least anti-Semitic sentiments, but all kinds of bigoted sentiments over the years. But let's work through these 2 interviews with Charles and Errol, because I think that they're very important and instructive of showing a little bit of the thought process behind these guys, these groups of people. And again, we don't now know anymore how many there are. It could be 49. Some media saying 49, some media saying 58, some media saying 59, but we're going to continue to call them the 49ers here in South Africa, just for ease. So I want to start with Charles Kleinhaus because his interview is pretty extraordinary. He spoke to the BBC, quite a long form interview. His family, he says, he had a family farm in Mpumalanga province in South Africa, very beautiful, very lovely. And Charles spoke a little bit about how difficult it was to make the sacrifice of moving to the United States of America. He said, I had to leave a 5-bedroom house, which I will lose now. Also had to leave behind his car, his dogs, and even his mother. I didn't come here for fun, he adds. Now, you know, we were talking about whether or not all of these Afrikaners were, the joke being white car guards from Brakpan. Mm-hmm. This is a guy, a 5-bedroom house.
Yeah.
His mother, his dogs, his car, he has a farm. Didn't his LinkedIn also say that he had some kind of mining business?
I believe so, yeah.
Same guy. Extraordinary wealth, extraordinary blessings, the kind of quality of life, the kind of assets, the kind of properties, the kind of business, the kind of home living, the kind of cars and normal standard of life that the vast majority of South Africans could only dream of having, that the majority of Black South Africans in particular, pretty much we know, will not realistically be able to have a 5-bedroom house in their lifetimes. And he is, woe is me, gone to the United States of America for a better life and is now living in a budget hotel near an American highway. The delusion, the victim mentality, the failure to grasp reality. And he said he's super happy that, he says, I finally felt somebody in this world is seeing what's going on about Trump and the US talking about, or like getting them over. And again, it's like, what did they see that's going on? In your 5-bedroom house on a farm in Mpumalanga with your mining company, your dog, your car, and your mother. My heart does not bleed for you, bro. Like nothing about this it's just almost beyond belief. And of course, no surprise, he's on that deluded trip that quite a few white South Africans are on, which is fact-free and false, saying things like the land expropriation has gone too far, your land becomes worthless, people are scared of that. And again, no land has been expropriated unjustly without compensation. No land will be expropriated unjustly without compensation separate from the courts in the new Land Expropriation Act. And that Land Expropriation Act, in the way that it works, that Expropriation Act, is done all around the world, including in the United States of America. They just call it a different thing. But the delusion is so clear. Then he says, other Afrikaners who criticize us live in a bubble. You were in a 5-bedroom house on a farm in Mpumalanga. What bubble are the other Afrikaners in when you live in a 5-bedroom house on a farm in Mpumalanga and have a mining company?
I also think it's fascinating that you assume that the majority of Afrikaners are in a bubble, but the 49 to 59 Afrikaners aren't the bubble.
Bro,
Dude.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. But this is where it gets very wild in a way that I referred to earlier. Because good old Charles posted some horrible things on social media in the last few years that if he were a brown or black American or a foreign exchange student on a study visa in America, he would have had to flee the country, as many have in the last few years. He would be deported. He would definitely be deemed to be an anti-Semite. And these are genuinely anti-Semitic posts. These are genuinely vile and anti-Semitic bigotries that he posted, not just, hey, maybe we shouldn't allow for the killing and genocide of Palestinians, right? It's a completely different thing. Quote, Jews are untrustworthy and a dangerous group. Then in another one, he shared a right-wing nationalist YouTube video that was later removed titled, We'll Shoot Illegal Immigrants, Poland's Illegal Islamic Immigration Solution, with clapping emojis. So he's an Islamophobe who has celebrated the potential shooting and murder of Muslim people, and he has just spread bigotry about Jews. Now, he has said in these interviews that, yes, that is his stuff. And he was feeling very angry and upset at the time because he's a very religious Christian and he saw a video that purported to show Jews spitting on Christians and it made him very upset. Now, BBC pointed out that they had not been able to verify that video was depicting real truth. So we don't even know if that incident ever happened. But even in that case, he says, I'm a very religious person. I'll stand up for my religious beliefs. Oh, how very Jesus-like of you. How very, very what would Jesus do of you? To post vile anti-Semitic nonsense in response to that kind of material.
I think it's fascinating also that the two articles, the Guardian article versus the BBC one, when it comes to this interview, also give different reasons for why this happened or why he claims to have posted these things. Because as you said, the BBC, I think, reported that it was because of his religious anger, if you will. Whereas the Guardian reported that he claimed that he insisted to the Times, apparently, that he was not anti-Semitic and claimed to have written the post in error while on medication.
What medication? It's like when people say racist things while they're drunk and they blame the alcohol. The alcohol didn't make you racist. The alcohol didn't bring the N-word into your lexicon, bro, in the same way that if you drink a lot of alcohol, you don't suddenly start speaking French. It was in you already. It was there. It was obviously there. You don't learn new concepts and say new things. It just lowers your inhibitions and brings it to the surface. I promise you that medication doesn't make you anti-Semitic or an Islamophobe. And if it did, I'd love to see this medication because that is a level of mind control altering idea and concept creation that respectfully, I don't think medication has ever done.
Can you imagine somebody has a medication and then goes, pardon my French, and then just starts speaking French?
Right.
It never happened.
And yet, Charles Kleinhaus was allowed into the United States of America as one of the chosen 49 in the tribe, or 58 or 59, whatever, to be the first batch of the saved, downtrodden, oppressed, innocent, and just having a really bad time in his 5-bedroom house in Mpumalanga on the farm, white South Africans.
Which brings me to the irony of his surname, Dan.
So, Eric, as someone who can actually speak German, I'd like you to confirm this.
Oh, okay.
Kleinhaus means?
Well, it's basically, etymologically, it definitely comes from small house.
Yes.
So the fact that he's left a large house.
The 5-bedroom house in Mpumalanga to live on the side of a road.
Yeah.
This is just, I'm so glad we'll never have to talk about these interviews again.
Yeah.
But I know we have to do it once, but I'm so glad we'll never have to talk about it again. Okay, let's now switch to the person who spoke to the New York Times. This is Errol Langton. He and 8 members of his family were amongst the first group. They have been placed in Birmingham, Alabama. Errol says he will probably have to start out working in an IT kind of capacity for a company, but he hopes to then, in the end, get a farm. Again, it's like, the poor farmer's getting attacked. And then the first batch, they're not even going to farm. They're just going to do tech support, I guess, some kind of IT role. Okay, so just like Charles Smallhouse, Mr. Langton believes a lot of the kind of right-wing conspiracy theories that Grok yesterday confirmed are unfounded and lacking in evidence or verified information. So some of his quotes, he says he's happy to be in Alabama because South Africa is a very warm country and Alabama is very much the same. He goes on to say, South Africa is a beautiful country and it breaks my heart that we've left, and the majority of the people, black, white, you name it, across all cultural divides, are brilliant, friendly people. Interesting. Then he says, white farmers are generally attacked with cause. Now, again, that is factually not true, and something that a lot of peddlers of this conspiracy theory like to peddle is, so you're saying there are no farm murders, and then they cite one farm murder. No one has ever said that farmers and farm workers and farm owners don't suffer crime and don't get killed. What people have consistently said is that it is demonstrably more dangerous to be a black person, to be a poor person, to be someone living in a city than it is to be a farmer of any race or a farm worker of any race. And that all different kinds of businesses across South Africa get targeted by desperate people because they are seen as places where the money resides. And farms are generally in rural areas, not particularly well policed because there are large tracts of lands in the middle of nowhere. How do you police that? And there are desperate, impoverished people living around who go, that's where the money resides. So again, it's not enough to say that, oh, there are a handful of farm murders a year, which there are, but far below the national averages of other kinds of groups, other kinds of business people, other kinds of South Africans living in other contexts. It's not enough to cite one. So he says white farmers are generally attacked with cause. That's not even saying that there's a grand conspiracy against white farmers. That's really just in a soft, gentle way, farmers are being attacked with cause, and they happen quite often to be white because of historic privilege and apartheid and colonialism and the Land Act and all the rest. And with cause is usually just because people try to rob places of business, places of wealth. That's all that it is. He's not even going that far. So then Errol Langton says, some people of the group of us are lucky enough to have worked here before, and others have family out here. So there are already some very blessed people who are going to have a softer landing, although some people don't know anything about it. And then unbelievably, Errol Langton says it's terrible to be labeled as traitors and sellouts by South Africans, even other Afrikaners. And then, unbelievably, he uses the phrase, and I cannot tell you how shocked I was to hear this from someone like this, haters are going to hate.
There's no way. Are you being serious? That's what
he said to the BBC the New York Times quote, haters are going to hate.
Very refugee-like.
About this situation, about this controversy, haters going to hate.
Yeah.
Wow. So these are just two of the 49, 58, 59 tribe of Afrikaner refugees who, some of them, it seems, have genuinely drank the Kool-Aid about the conspiracy theories that are unfounded about South Africa and white genocide and farm murders. I'm sure that both of these two understand that it's a good idea for them to say this kind of stuff to the media because they're ultimately playing to Trump and his administration, and they want to say the right things to make Trump and his administration feel like they're all on the same page so they continue to get support. But I mean, looking again at good old Charles's social media posts from the last handful of years, he's fully down this dark hole of the conspiracy theories about what is really happening in South Africa. So now, hopefully, we can put it to bed. I'm sure there will be more interviews with more of these guys in time to come, but these two seem pretty representative of the kinds of people who are now in America, the subject of a massive, massive scandal, of a contestation over South Africa's reputation and what is really happening here, and a worldwide outrage over how these guys have been prioritized over genuine refugees, black and brown people sitting in refugee camps, having waited for years, going through due process and being denied, or just in awful situations like famine, starvation, and war. Can we now quietly put this to bed and hope that there's something else to talk about on Tuesday?
Oh, absolutely. Surely.
Because I feel like this is now the end of the story. It's wrapped now.
Yeah.
There will be more things, but now we've heard from them. That's basically it. We now understand exactly what has happened here and the kinds of people who have gone. And therefore, we can kind of project about the kinds of people who I'm sure will be on the next flights. What a week.
It has been an interesting week, yeah.
South Africa, once again, in the world's spotlight. It's tiring. It's tiring. But, we have to talk about it and we have to understand it.